Masechet Nazir Daf Samech, and with this daf we hope to finish the 8th and second to last perek of the Masechet, and this will also complete our discussion of the korbanot for a Nazir who is also a safek of some other type of tum'ah. So here's the Mishnah that we've been waiting for. We quoted it already a couple of times. But now we're going to add in not just the waiting periods, but also the various korbanot that one has to bring. Will come up in the Gamada. Nazir shaya tameh besafek umuchlat besafek ochel bekadashim achar shishim yom. A Nazir, he's for sure a Nazir, let's say for 30 days, and on the very first day of his Nazir, he also becomes tameh lamet, misafek, we're not sure, right? Someone saw him maybe go near some place, touch of something, so tameh met misafek, and also a misora muchlat, a confirmed misora, but misafek. In other words, a Kohen came and said, he saw two people and said, one of your skins are definite misarat, but he didn't specify which one, and then he left. We can't ask him anymore. So this person can eat kodashim after 60 days. Ve'shotei yain mitameh lametim achar 120 yom, and he can drink wine and become tameh lamet, meaning he's totally finished with all of his nizirut after only 120 days. We spoke about why this should be so, since he might be just a Nazir and totally tahor in all these times, so he can't do what a normal tameh person would do. And we're going to get to those cases also. We'll specify exactly what happens if he's for sure tameh lamet and or for sure tameh misora. Then that's much easier, because then, let's say misora, he can shave immediately. A Nazir is allowed to shave if he's a misora. He shaves on that very day, and then he shaves on the 7th day. He brings his korbanot, and then he can start his nizirut immediately. So those cases are simple. But in this case, because maybe he is not tameh, so as a Nazir, he's not allowed to shave misafek, right? This is in fact the last line. Shetiglachat hanega dochat tiglachat hanazir bizman shehu vadai, ava bizman shehu safek eno doche. Because shaving for sara'at overrides the prohibition against shaving as a Nazir, but that's only if he's for sure a misora. But when he's only safek that he's a misora, then it does not override. Therefore, he's got to wait 30 days just in case he's a Nazir tahor. At the end of 30 days, we could bring, this is now a modified, expanded chart, but we're going to come back to this. 30 days in case he's a Nazir tahor, but maybe not, maybe he's a misora, and so he'll shave at this point as a misora his whole body. Now, if he's a misora, he's going to have to shave again. He can't do it right away because maybe he's actually not a misora and he's not allowed to shave, and so he has to wait another 30 days in case the first one was his Nazir Tum'ah, and this will be his Nazir Tahara. And then at that point, he'll shave his whole body again, and that would count as his second Nazir Misora shave, if in fact he was a Misora. But then he still has to do another 30 days in case he is tahor, or and at that point he might have been tameh, and so that shaving would be for his Nazir Tum'ah, and then the rest of the days will be just in case he was all of these things. That will be his actually Nazirut Tahara. Now, so we can only drink wine after 120 days, but at this point, once he finishes both sara'ats, and we assume at some point here he also got paraduma water, if in fact he might have been tameh lamet. So since he is no longer tameh lamet and he has finished his misora shavings, so he can eat kodashim at this point. Okay, so that was the Mishnah, and now let's see how the Gamada explains it. Tana, אומרים בנזירות מועטת, אבל בנזירות בת שנה, אוכל בקדשים לאחר 6 שנים, ושותה יין ומטמא למתים לאחר 4 שנים. All this in the numbers that are in the Mishnah, 60 days, 120 days, is only for the smallest time period of a 30-day misora, a 30-day Nazir rather. But if he took upon himself a Nazirut for 1 year and is then otherwise in the same situation, he has a Nazirut for a year, but he's also Safek Misora and Safek Tameh Lamet, then you just adjust the numbers accordingly. He'll have to wait 1 year between each shaving, and he needs 4 shavings altogether. So after 2 of them, two years, he can eat Kodashim, because then he finished his first and second misora shavings, and he'll have done para aduma waters on the 3rd and 7th day, sometime in between during those 2 years. So now he is tahor, so he can eat kodashim. However, he still has to do a shaving in order for his tumat met. So in order to restart the counting, so he's going to have to do another year to shave for tumat met, and another year after that for the actual tahara nizirut, and so that's another 2 years before he finishes. All right, good. That's one baraita about the Mishnah. Another one, v'tane ala umgalech arba taglachiot tiglachat rishona mebisi porim. And now we're going to explain what he does for their various korbanot. We're going to have him bring the minimum amount of korbanot needed just to shave, right? Although at various stages, Nazir Tameh brings 3 korbanot, but he has to bring that. But for the absolute minimum amount, just to be permitted to shave, that's what we're going to have him do, so that he can get by. Okay, so at the first stage of Rishonah, what is he going to bring to cover all his bases? He's going to bring birds. This is 2 birds that a misora brings on the first day of his purification. These birds are not offered in the Bet HaMikdash. They're brought outside the Bet HaMikdash. One of them is slaughtered and you catch its blood. And then you take the other bird, and the other bird stays alive. And you dip that bird with other things into the blood, and use the live bird, to sprinkle the misora, and then the live bird goes free. So these birds, the birds of a misora, on his first day, there's no problem to bring them, even if he doesn't need them. This is not bringing chulin la'azara, right? If they're necessary, good, right? Anytime, any day, if someone wants to do this with 2 birds, go ahead and do it, right? So there's no downside in bringing them. So in case he is a misora, then at the 30-day mark, he's going to bring these birds. Now, that will take care of if he's a misora. Now, v'chatata of eolat behema. And he's also going to bring chatata of. That's a sin offering for a bird in case he was only tameh lamet. Tameh lamet, and a Nazir, he has to bring 3 korbanot, but at minimum, he brings his hatata off, and a hatata off can be brought misafek, unlike a hatat animal that can only be brought if he for sure needs to bring one. Hatat off can be brought misafek, so even though he's safek, fine, he'll bring a hatat off in that case. And he'll also bring olah behema. That's in case he's a regular Nazir, totally tahor. He has to bring in olah behema before he can shave, right? So if he brings each of these 3, that will allow him to shave no matter what. We can look at the same thing here on the chart. When he starts off, is possible that he's a Nazir tahor. It's possible he's a Nazir tameh. It's possible he's a Nazir misora and needs a first shave. It's possible that he's both Nazir tameh and misora. And so he's going to bring this bird chatat. That'll take care of this. This is bird chatat for misora. And he's also going to bring the birds for, I don't know why it doesn't say it here. He's also going to bring, the bird chatat is for tum'ah. The lamb olah is for the tahara. And he's also going to bring birds, non-sacro. That's why it's not here, because it's not an offering. He's going to bring the birds for his misora. So that'll take care of A, B, or C. D is just a combination of B and C. So that takes care of all possibilities. And once he brought that lamb olah, so if he was a Nazir tahor, he's taken care of at that point. Okay, now what is he going to bring after 60 days? Let's see it inside first. Sheniya, mebi chatat ha'of ve'olat behema. Shilishit, mebi chatat ha'of ve'olat behema. The second and third shavings is the same thing. Let's see the chart. he brings an olah, a lamb for an olah. That's in case, let's say he was Nazir Tameh for these 30 days. He's done with that. So now he's ready to complete his Naziru Tara if he was not a misoda. So then he brings a lamb for an olah. Good. And if he was a misoda, then he completed the first shaving. A Nazir, after he completes the second shaving, the next day he has to bring a hatat. If he's rich, he brings an animal. If he's poor, he brings a bird. So we'll make him poor. He'll make everything hefker. So a bird will be enough. And so therefore he brings his bird as a hatat after the 60 days. So now he's done. If he was a misora, he's definitely done with the saraat. And he'll do paraduma sometime before, so now we can eat kodashim. At this point, we for sure we're done with the sara'at stuff, and the other possibilities are he was never tameh lamet, so this is his niziru tara, so he's going to bring a lamb for an olah in case this is his niziru tara. But if he was tameh the whole time, so now he has to bring a bird for a hatat, to complete his Nizirut Tum'ah and be able to start counting again. So at that point, for sure, he finished his Sarat and Tum'ah, and the only thing possible that he has left is that he's a Nazir Tahor. So at this point, he'll bring yet another Korban Olah, in case he has to now, and he'll bring his other Chatat and Shelamim, a full set of Tahor sacrifices, and such that the Olah lambs that he brought before, if he was not a Tahor yet, those will be voluntary offerings, and this will be the main one, right? Whichever one is the main one will be the one that's obligatory, and all the other three will be voluntary. And the Chatat and Shelamim are not necessary for his shaving, so he can bring these at the end after he does everything else. Okay, good. So let's see that rest of it. We did the Shilishit. Revi'it, maybe Korban Tahora. After the fourth one, he brings all of his 3 Korbanot. Good. That's the Braita. Let's analyze it. Amart. We're explaining each stage now again. No matter what he is, he's good to go. He's good to shave. If he's just a misora and he's not tameh lamet, sipurin chovato. So the birds that he brings outside the Bet HaMikdash, those are the ones that he has to bring to sprinkle it on him for his first shaving. The chatata of safek, chatata of that he brings for being impure, that he only brought misafek. So azla likbura, that when you bring a bird chatat, and you're not sure if you have to bring it, while the parts that get sprinkled on the altar go on the altar, but the parts that the kohanim eat, they don't eat. That gets buried instead. It gets thrown into the canal runs under the Bet HaMikdash. Ve'olah havya nedava, and the olah that he brings, if he were pure, so he'll just make that an olah of a voluntary olah. So that's fine. Now, to shave his second time within 7 days, he can't do that as a misoda. We usually would. Because maybe he's not a confirmed misora, and therefore he's just a regular nazir, and he's not allowed to shave. A nazir cannot have a razor on his head. That's why he has to wait 30 days before he can do his second Sara'at shaving. Now, if he was never a misora, but he was tameh lamet, then the hatat of bird offering that he brings after 30 days, that'll be the one that he needs to do, so we can restart the counting. Sipurin abara'eh ka mitabedin vela have cholin ba'azara ve'olat behema havya nedava. And the birds that he brings as for sara'at, those are brought outside the Bet HaMikdash, and so there's no violation of bringing non-sacred animals into the temple courtyard. And the olah behema that he would bring as a Nazir Tahor, he's not a Nazir Tahor because he's Tameh, so that'll be a gift offering. And let's say he's not misora, and he's not tameh, he's just a regular good Nazir. So the birds that he brought as sadat, so they're outside. There's no downside in bringing them. And the bird of the chatat bird that he brought, that will be thrown away. and the Kohanim will not eat it. Olat behema, it will be sacrificed, and then the rest of it thrown away. Olat behema havya chovato, and the animal that he brings as a olah, that will be for his what he needs to bring as a tahor nazir. Even though the other animals will wait till later, but that's sufficient for him to be able to shave at that point. Okay, good. So now question. Now regarding the misora also has to bring in asham at the end on his 8th day. What about that? And we answer, Rabbi Shimon hidamar maite umatne. So we can follow Rabbi Shimon, who says, he can bring it with a stipulation. If I am a sarat, I'll bring this asham as for my as a misora. And if not, then it'll be a voluntary shalamim, right? They're very similar, and so according to Rabbi Shimon, one can make that stipulation and bring it either way. Now, tiglachat sheniya ushlishit siporin la sarich teha avid. After the second and third shavings, now you don't need the birds for the misora anymore because he did it after the first one, so that's done if he needed it. So ma'ika dilma vaday muchlatu hada lisfek sefaro vehada lisfek tum'ato. So what else do we have left? Well, maybe he's for sure a misora, and so he'll have to bring the bird offer, the chatat bird, at the end of 60 days, just in case for his purification counting. Though for those days, in case he needed that purification during normally it would be 7 days between the first and second shavings. For the misoda here, it's 30 days, so he's going to bring the bird offering to complete his sara'at. And the other one after the 90 days, that will be in case he was tameh lamet. So he'll bring that other bird offering so that he can restart his tahora counting. Tiglachad revit maybe korban tahora umatne. And so at the end he'll bring a whole set of all of his korbanot that a normal Nazir would bring, 3 animals, and he makes the following condition. If I was for sure a Nazir and I didn't have any tumah and I was not a misora, then the first olah that I brought, that will be my voluntary one, and this one, the other ones also that he brought, will be voluntary. And if I was tameh lamet and a misora, then all the earlier olah animals will be voluntary offerings, and this one will be, the last one will be the one that I must bring as a Nazir. Okay, good. So that explains all the cases in that complicated case where he has 2 sefekot. Now, let's go back to the less complicated cases. Tameh sefek umuchlat vadai. What if he is for sure a misora? That we know, but we're not sure if he's tameh lamet. In that case, he could start eating sacrifices after 8 days. Why? Since he knows he's for sure a misora, so he's allowed to shave as a Nazir, and a misora. He's going to shave, let's say he gets all these sifekot and for sure sarat on the first day of his Nazirut, when he first makes the vow. So on that very day, he can do his opening shaving as a misora, and then on the 7th day he will shave the second time. On the 8th day he brings his korbanot, and we'll assume just in case he was tameh lamet. So tameh lamet also will have to be the 3rd and 7th. He'll have to get sprinkled. Okay, so he'll get sprinkled also during those that time period. So at that point he can bring his korbanot. Now veshoteh yayin. However, we have a safek whether he's tameh lamet or not. So he's going to have to shave for tumat met first. Now that's going to take 30 days. He can't shave right away because he doesn't know for sure he's tameh lamet. He might be tahor, so he has to wait 30 days just in case he's tahor. But then just in case tameh, he's going to have to shave and do another 30 days for his nazir tahora, and so that'll add 60 days. And so you have altogether 67 days, right? The 8 days. But then on that 8th day, he can start already the 60 days And there you go. So it'll be 8, and then on that 8th, 30, and then another 30. Good. Muchlat safek v'tameh vadai. What if it's the other way around? He knows for sure he's tameh lamet, but he's not sure if he's a misora. Ochel bekadashim lachar sheloshim v'shiv'a yamim v'shoteh yain umit tameh lametim lachar shivim v'arba'a yamim. Since he's for sure tameh lamet, so he's going to wait 7 days, get sprinkled on the 3rd and 7th, and he can shave. He knows he can shave at least one time, and he'll shave on the 7th day. But now, just in case he is a misora, 30 days later, he's going to shave again. If he was a misora, then that 7th day will be the first misora shaving, the 37th day will be the second misora shaving. Now he can eat kodashim, because he got sprinkled with paraduma water, and he finished his sara'at. However, he may still be tameh, he still may need a third one for tumah lamet. So that's why he cannot drink wine until after another 37 days to make 74 altogether, right? He did 7 and 30, and so if he was tameh misora, then he did 7 days and 30 days. Those were he took care of his sara'at. But now he is for sure a tameh lamet. So he doesn't have to wait 30 days. He can shave after 7 days, because the 7 days there is because he needs something to shave. For tumat met, you need at least 7 days of hair growth. So I'll wait 7 days, shave to complete his tumat, his nezirut tum'ah, and then he does the 30 days of nezirut tahara. So that's what he would do, just in case he was misora all along, and then the rest. See, he can compact the first 30 days into 7, and the that third part into 7, because he's for sure a tameh lamet. So he doesn't have to wait 30 days. He knows he can shave at least that time. If he is tameh lamet only, then he does the 7 days. He's finished the tumat met, and then he does 30 days as Nezirut Tara, and he's complete. He's done after 37 days if he's not a misora. So that way, for sure, he's good. And if he is misora, he finished the tumat misora after 30 days, he still has his tumat met. He can do that after 7 days, right? Because that's for sure. And so actually, so it's actually better to be a for sure vadai tameh than safek tameh, at least in terms of the number of days he will count. All right, and finally, tameh vadai umuchlat vadai. He became a Nazir. On that very day, he became a definite tumat met and a definite confirmed misora. אוכל בקודשים לאחר 8 ימים, ושותה יין ומתטמא למתים לאחר 44 ימים. In that case, it's much easier. He first takes care of his sarat, and he'll shave his whole body on that first day, and on the 7th day, and then bring his korbanot on the 8th day as a misora. During that time period, he also can get sprinkled with paraduma water. So now he's totally pure, not a misora, not tameh lamet, so he can eat kodashim on that 8th day going forward. And then he can't start his Nezirut Tahara until he shaves a 3rd time for his Nezirut Tum'ah. But he can't shave until he waits 7 days, so he has some hair to shave. And that's why, starting on that 7th day, he'll count another 7 days. That's the 14 days of waiting. And at that point, he'll shave the 3rd time, and then he can count the 30 days of his Nezirut Tahara and shave at the end of it. And so altogether, that'll be 30 plus 7 plus 7 is 44 days. Okay, good. So that completes all the permutations. And now we're going to go through a conversation that will establish why you cannot use one shaving for two different purposes. Each shaving has a particular characteristic that it doesn't share with others, and that's why you have to do 4 shavings. You can't double up. שאלו תלמידיו את רבי שמעון בן יוחאי, נזיר טהור ומסורה, מה שיגלח תגלחת אחת ועולה לו לכאן ולכאן. So we're going to pair up different ones. So first we pair up Nazir tahor, and he's a misora. So can he do one shaving? Let's say he finished his Nazirut, he finished the counting, and then became a misora. So can his shaving for the end of his Nezirut Tahara also count towards his first misora shaving? Can it do both? Amar lehen eno megalech. No, he cannot. He's going to have to have a waiting period. and shave twice. Amru lo lama. So they asked him why. Why can't he just use the one shaving for both? Amar lehen ilu ze legadel v'ze legadel v'ze lehabir v'ze lehabir yafei atem omerim. Achshav nazir lehabir misora legadel. Okay, so he said, listen, if they were of equal nature, then he could, right? If they were both for shaving for the purpose of growing, then fine. And if they both were for the purpose of removing hair and being the end, then also, yes, they would be comparable. And they're different. Nazir, this is the end of his Nazir Tahara period, so that is for removing hair and being finished, right? He wants to remove all the hair that he was not allowed to shave during Nazirut, and now he's done. Whereas misora is different. He is removing hair with this is his first shaving, with the expectation that now he's going to have to make it grow again so he can shave it again. So that's a different purpose for the shaving, so you can't mix and match them and do 2 in 1. So now, second question. Velo tale lo yeme chiluto, vetale lo lime sifro. Okay, fine. I understand it's not going to count for the end of his confirmed leprosy, meaning at the beginning of his purification. But how about at the end of the purification, let it count then, and let him do a one shaving for for completing Nizirut and for the completing of the purification process for as a misora. Because both of them, those are similar in this sense, right? Both of them are lehavir. You're removing the hair, and that's it. You're not going to be growing it. You don't need to grow it again. Well, it says if they were similar in that both of these shavings were before they have to sprinkle blood, then fine, I would agree with you, but they're not. A misora, he has to shave before he sprinkles blood. A Nazir shaves the last shaving on the 7th day, and he brings korbanot on the 8th day, and that's when the blood is sprinkled. So he shaves first and then sprinkles the blood. Whereas a Nazir is the other way around. He's not allowed to shave until he sprinkles at least blood of at least one of his korbanot. So you see, these are of a different nature. You cannot mix and match the two. So they further ask him, Velo tale lo lime sara'ato u'neziruto, vetale lo lime sara'ato vetum'ato. They say, we agree that the same shaving cannot work for sara'at and for nizirut tahara. But how about if you have a misora and nizirut tum'ah? Because in both of those cases, he shaves first and then brings the korbanot afterwards, just like in misora, right? Shaves on the 7th day and brings it afterwards. So too, tum'at, nazir tum'at does the same order. So those are in fact similar. And the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai answers, Amar lehen ilu ze lifnei biat mayim v'ze lifnei biat mayim yafei atem omerim ela tameh la'achar biat mayim mesora lifnei biat mayim. So if both of them shaved before they went to the mikveh, then yes, I would agree that they are similar. But the Nazir Tameh, he shaves after he goes to the mikveh, whereas the misora shaves before he goes to the mikveh. And so they are not the same, and they are not comparable. Amrullah, that's in the pasuk, that order. Amrullah, Yafeh amarta shelo tale lo lime sefaro ule neziruto, vetale lo lime chiluto vetum'ato, teze legadel, veze legadel hu. So the students told him, I understand, we agree with you, your answer, why it will not work for his completing the nizirut and for any type of his nizirut. But what about his first shaving as a misora and his nizirut tum'ah, right? What about that? Because those are similar. That in that both of them, he's expecting that he's going to have more hair growing after. The misora, the first one he does is an introduction, so that he'll be growing hair until the 8th day, and Nazir Tameh also is shaving at that point, so that he can restart counting his Nazir Tum'ah. So they're both shaving in order to grow. Amar lehen Nazir tahor vehu mesora ze legadel veze lehabir v'im Nazir tameh vehu mesora ze lifnei biat mayim veze leachar biat mayim. Rashbi then repeats the distinctions that he made before, and just so each case has something different, so there's no way to put them together. So this is basically kind of a summary of what he said before. And so if you have a Nazir Tahor and he's also a misoda, well, the misoda is shaving in his first shaving so that he can grow in the future, whereas a Nazir Tahor is at the end and he's shaving at the end, so you can't compare those. And if you're going to tell me about Nazir Tameh and misora, because a Nazir Tameh is shaving in order to grow, and misora also is doing it in order to grow, and that was their question over here. Well, that's also not the same, because a misora goes to the mikveh shaves before he goes into the mikveh, whereas the Nazir Tameh goes to the mikveh. He shaves rather after he goes to the mikveh, and so they're not the same on that account, and so therefore you can never make any two shavings equal. All that is summarized in the following baraita again. Taneh Rabbi Chiya, ze lifnei biat mayim, veze lachar biat mayim, ze lifnei zerikat damim, veze lachar zerikat damim. The misora does not count the shaving because the misora shaves before mikveh, whereas the impure Nazir shaves after the mikveh, and the misora, he shaves before he brings his korbanot, and the Nazir Tameh shaves after the sprinkling. So again, the same distinctions means that you can never mix and match and shave once to count for two things. All right, and we'll end off the Perek with another short discussion. If someone's a Nazir and a misora, so the shaving of misora overrides the prohibition against the shaving as a Nazir. Rami bar Chama asks, these four shavings that we have in the Mishnah, is each one a mitzvah? That there's a mitzvah to shave with a razor specifically, or is it the act of doing it, or is it the result that you have to get the hair, you have to remove the hair? That's tameh, and the goal is to remove the hair. Now, what's the difference? Rami bar Chama is always asking these technical questions, and the answer is actually it does make a difference. La abure ben nasha, to use a depilatory, like the acidic stuff that you put it on and then it burns off the hair. Removes the hair, but not with a razor. If you say there's a mitzvah to actually take it off with a razor, you have to use a razor and not a depilatory. And on the other hand, if you say that the goal is to remove the hair, then even if you use the depilatory, that would also work to remove the hair. All right, so now we got the question. What's the answer? Mai amaravat hashema umegaleach arbat haglachiot v'isakadatech mishum abure se'al tum'ah afilu b'shalosh namesa gyale shema mina mishum misvah shema mina. And the Rav's answer is yes. You use a mitzvah to remove the hair for all of them. The only one that we might have had a question about was Nazir Tameh, because for Misora, it says you have to use a razor, and for Nazir Tahor, it says you have to use a razor. And so, yes, in fact, for all four, you need that, because if you would think that the problem is that a Nazir Tameh, he just has to remove his hair and he can use a depilatory, well, in that case, he would be able to have only 3 times of shaving, because that third one in that sequence, which was if it was a misora, then that was the word for sarat. But the third one, he could use a depilatory, right? No matter what. Because that was only for Nazir Tumah. But the Mishnah does not say that. It says that he has to shave 4 times. So we can learn from the Mishnah that in fact, yes, he has to use a razor for all 4 of them. Hadran alach shene nezirim chazakim uberuchim.